Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt in the ReliefFactor.com studio. Coming up, a great guest. First, President Trump tweeted 19 minutes ago, European Central Bank acting quickly. Cuts rates 10 basis points. They are trying and succeeded in depreciating the euro against the very strong dollar, hurting U.S. exports. And the Fed sits and sits and sits. They get paid to borrow money, and we are paying the interest. Joined now by Congressman Greg Gianforte. He is the only congressman representing Big Sky, Montana. He is also running for governor of the Big Sky state. Congressman Gianforte, welcome. It's great to have you on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Hugh, good to be with you. Please call me Greg.
And, you know, I never do that with people because the audience gets confused then. But, Greg, thank you for asking me. I'll keep reminding him it's Congressman Gianforte. By the way, the Twitter handle, Greg for Montana. All right, here's the question that the average person says. You got a nice gig in Congress. You've made your bones in the private marketplace. You're doing a lot of good charity with organizations like acescholarships.org. You can just basically put 20 years into the Congress and become significant. Instead, you want to be the governor. So you're giving that up. Why?
Well, we've had 16 years of Democrat governors in Montana. I'm a business guy. I've spent my whole life in the private sector. I'm one of the few members of Congress that's actually run a public company. We started it in our home and grew it. We need business experience in Helena, Montana, and that's why I'm running for governor.
Now, a lot of people, including me, despite the fact of having good friends like Janjner and Carol Anderson up there, do not understand Montana politics because it goes overwhelmingly for Trump and then it elects a Democratic governor. What is that all about?
Well, we are not a red state. We have some conservative leanings, but it goes back. If you want to understand, it's a great book. Jeanette Rankin, Montana elected the first woman to Congress back in 1916. There's a great biography entitled Jeanette Rankin, The Conscience of America, and it explains Montana politics. It hasn't changed in 100 years. 7% of our population is Native American on the reservations. We have two big university towns. We also have some historic mining towns, and they're pro-life, they're pro-gun, they're pro-natural resources, but they vote their grandfather's union card. And as a consequence, it's not a layup for a conservative Republican.
Now, I want to remind people, Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton by 20 points 2 years ago. He had 55.6%. Secretary Clinton had 35.4%. So we got 20% of the state that basically goes back and forth. It splits tickets. That's a historically high number. So they must be used to it.
It's a very independent state. In fact, our current governor, who happens to be running for president along with every other Democrat, he never got 50% of the vote. So in the last election I ran in statewide, I won by 5 points. That was considered a landslide.
Now, how do you actually get around a state as vast and as difficult to navigate as Montana? You fly?
Well, we do some. My rule generally is if it's 4 hours or less, I'll drive. Over that, I might get in an airplane. And to give people perspective on how big Montana is, the fourth largest state, Alaska, Texas, California, and then Montana with just 1 million people. You can fit Washington, D.C. in the southeast corner and Chicago in the northwest corner. They both fit.
So do they know, does everybody know you? Having run statewide, you must have statewide name recognition. I don't know who's running against you on the Democratic side, but do people say, hey, Greg, here's what I think about this and here's what I think about that?
Yes, and I'm out all the time. We have 56 counties. I get to every county every year. I'm proud. When I go home, I tell folks, I have yet to spend a weekend in Washington, D.C. I travel back to Montana, and we live in Bozeman. My wife and I, we've raised our 4 kids there, but I spend every moment traveling the state. We stay in people's homes typically, and that's a way to get to know folks and build relationships.
Now, Greg Gianforte, tell us a little bit about an issue set for an election. So I have Doug Ducey on a lot. I have Ron DeSantis on a lot during his campaign. Those are very different states from Montana. What matters to the average voter in Montana?
Well, our exports are beef, grain, and our kids. We have not had opportunities for Montanans. We've had environmental extremists shut down our natural resources industries. We watch our forests burn every summer. There are tools in the governor's toolbox that would allow the state to start managing our federal lands again so we don't have to watch them burn. We also we've not had a pro-business administration. And the consequence is we're at the very bottom of states in terms of wages. And the result is our kids and grandkids leave the state to find better opportunities. So my proposition is pretty simple. I'm the only one in this governor's race on the Democrat side or the Republican side that has a business background. I want to bring that business background to Helena and lower taxes and reduce regulations, just taking a page out of the national playbook so that Montanans can prosper again.
I want to finish by asking you about charter schools. You are, as I told people, you're a big proponent, along with your wife, of acescholarships.org, which is private schools, not charter schools. People get a chance to fill a desk, and I appreciate that. I think it's a great organization, but you're also a charter school proponent. How much does school reform matter in Montana?
I think that parents know what's best for their kids. I think we have a big issue. Montana's going to help the entire country here shortly in this Espinoza v. Montana Department of Revenue. If you're familiar, this was a challenge to our Blaine Amendment in our state constitution.
Yep.
The Supreme Court just recently said they're going to hear the case this fall because we've had inconsistent rulings. It could potentially really put a lot more power in the hands of parents to make sure their kids get the education they deserve.
I had Justice Gorsuch last night at the Nixon Library in Yorba Linda. We don't ask him about pending cases, but if I had one case to ask him about, it would be about that. So in order to strike down all of the little Blaine amendments across the United States and really free up the ability to help schools which are organized around faith-based principles, is that a winning issue? Do people care about that?
The challenge, I'm a strong proponent for parental choice in education. We have many rural communities in Montana where the economics don't support multiple schools. So the challenge these schools have is we're not paying our teachers enough. I was recently with a teacher in rural Montana who, after a meeting, shared with me because of the low wages in our schools, he hadn't eaten 3 meals a day in over a year. And it's only because of the free food he got at school that he could support his family. We've got to change this. Bureaucracy sucks up so much of our education dollars. It's not getting to the classroom. That will be a priority when I'm the next governor of Montana.
All right, last question. In Justice Gorsuch's new book, he has a hypothetical about the Endangered Species Act. I told him last night and he wouldn't respond to it because it's sort of close to a pending case. The Endangered Species Act is out of control. I've retired from the practice of law, but I did it for 30 years. What is its impact on Montana? I know it crushes Colorado, but is the ESA in play in Montana?
Absolutely. It's been weaponized by the environmental extremists. They use it to shut down any reasonable project, forest management project. We have a proposed mine in the northwest part of the state. They are $200 million and 20 years into a permit process.
God.
And it's been the Endangered Species Act that's been shutting this project down. We need some common sense reforms on the ESA. When I was on natural resources in the House, we passed a number of these reforms, and we've got to shut down these frivolous litigation cases.
You're absolutely right. Greg Gianforte, keep coming back, Congressman. Good luck in this campaign ahead. Follow him on Twitter at Greg, FOR Montana, at Greg for Montana.